Hey guys, it's Nick. Welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to talk about some first-time real estate investor tips. So if you've never bought real estate before and if you've never invested in real estate, you're going to want to check this video out. All right, so let's jump straight into it. And the first thing that any first-time real estate investor has to ask themselves is, are you ready to be a landlord? Because this is no easy thing to be doing. It's not a matter of just buying a house, putting someone in it, and then collecting the rent. It doesn't work that way. There is always something that will go wrong. So dealing with tenants, whether you're doing it directly or through a property manager, you're still going to have the same problems. And the problems I'm talking about is things going wrong with the house. I don't know, the roof starts leaking, a tap bursts and then floods the place and then ruins the carpet. There are so many things that goes wrong with real estate. And as the landlord, guess what? You're going to have to fix it. So those are some major things that you need to ask yourself. Are you ready to deal with that before you start investing? And then not to mention tenants. I mean, they can leave at any point in time, even if there's a rental agreement in place. I had this happen to me recently. Tenant just bailed, stopped paying. Then I had an empty, vacant property. These are the types of things that you're going to have to deal with when you invest in real estate. So you got to ask yourself the question, do you have capacity in your life to deal with the extra stress that comes along with being a real estate investor and that comes along with being a landlord? Okay, so tip number 2 for any first-time investor, doesn't matter if it's real estate or not, pay down any unsecured debt. I say this in every video basically, sound like a broken record, but basically, if you have like credit cards, personal loans, car loans, whatever, and you haven't paid these things down, there's no point investing money. And it's really simple because the debt is always going to cost you more than you're going to make through real estate. The debt is going to crush any money that you're making. So you might as well just pay this stuff down. Then you can start investing and really make the most of it. Okay, so tip number 3 for any first-time real estate investor, and that is have a strategy before you buy any property. By having a strategy, you're gonna know exactly why you're buying the property that you're buying. There's no point just buying any property, hoping for the best and not really knowing where you're going. So with real estate investing, you wanna know exactly what it is you're buying, the reason you're buying it for, and then it makes actually looking for properties that much easier because when you have a strategy, it's very easy to eliminate properties that you don't need in the areas you don't want to invest. And it's easier to actually narrow down and find the property that you're looking for. So if you haven't seen my video on how to make money in real estate, I'll leave the link in the description below. Check it out because there's a whole bunch of strategies on there that may be suitable for you if you don't know what you're looking for. So tip number 4 for any first-time real estate investor, and this is when you're actually looking for a property in a particular area and you might have narrowed down maybe a suburb or you maybe narrowed down a couple of properties and you're not quite sure which one to go with. A good rule of thumb to stick by here is ask yourself, would you and your family live in that suburb? Would you and your family live in that house that you're looking at? And quite often than not, if you wouldn't want to live there, then why would any other tenant want to live there as well? So if you wouldn't raise your family there, why would someone else want to do that? And it's a good way of eliminating properties and making sure that you find a good suitable location that is going to get you the best value for money in the areas that you're looking for. But here's the thing, don't get too attached with these properties. I mean, when you're buying real estate, it needs to be based on facts and figures rather than emotion. Because if you bring emotion into it, you're going to get caught up and you may end up buying a property that's not suitable for real estate investing. So tip number 5 for any first-time real estate investor, especially during the times that we are going through right now. Here in 2020, the interest rates around the world are at record lows. We've never seen them this low really in any of our lives. So the fact remains that they may not always stay that way. They may not always be at these lows that we're seeing, right? So if you're buying a property now, the home loan that you're going to get is obviously going to have a really low interest rate, but you need to factor in interest rate rises because they may not always be this way. And when interest rates start to rise again, that's going to potentially eat into any cash flow that you have And then it's going to make holding the property just that much more difficult. And then you don't want to end up having to sell the property because you can't afford to keep it. So factor interest rate rises in when you're purchasing your property to make sure that if the interest rates do rise, you can afford to hold the property in the future. So tip number 6 for first-time real estate investors is calculating all of the costs. And I mean this in 2 parts. So calculating the costs of buying the property, and we all know you need your deposit. There's going to be some tax you'll have to pay. There's going to be some legal fees. There's going to be building and pest inspection fees. There's a whole host of costs that go with buying a property. So factor all of that in to your budget when you're going into purchase. But then importantly, when you're calculating your cash flow in holding the property, you want to just obviously calculate not only your mortgage, but the insurance, the property manager's fee if you have one, any utilities that you'll have to pay, any maintenance items that are going to come up, you want to have some money set aside for that as well. So factor all of these costs in to your budget and to your cash flow when you're working it out, just to make sure that you can actually afford to hold the property while you have it. And tip number 7 for any first-time real estate investor is get landlord insurance. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that don't necessarily have building and contents insurance on their own homes. They don't have car insurance. But when you are investing your money into real estate, I would highly recommend that you look into getting insurance for yourself, because if anything goes wrong with the property and there's no insurance, there goes all of the cash that you've set aside and spent years trying to save up for and buy the property. So do yourself a favor, get yourself the peace of mind and get landlord insurance, because like I said at the start of the video, anything can happen with these properties. You've got a human being living inside your asset. This is unlike any other asset class out there. There's someone living in it and there's something that can go wrong with it at any point. So get insured and make sure you have yourself covered. All right, so tip number 8 is, what is your return on investment? So when you're purchasing real estate, obviously there's a whole lot of costs that go into buying the property. So you got to work out at what point are you going to be getting that money back. So you kind of want to treat it almost as if you're running a business in a way, because you're investing most likely to make money. So you want to know when that money is going to come back and when you're going to start turning a profit. This is really important, and it's going to help you eliminate a lot of properties out there when you start working out cash flow and how much a property is going to cost you over time. When do you get your money back? So work out what your return on investment is before you spend any money. That way, then you kind of know in your mind, okay, after 5 years, I'm going to start making my money back again, and then I'm basically in the green. So treat it like a business and understand when you get your money back. So tip number 9 for any first-time real estate investor is, don't be your tenant's best mate. Now, don't get this twisted. Obviously, if you find a good tenant, look after them and make sure that any maintenance items come up, you get them fixed as soon as you can. But what I mean by don't be their best mate is, there's going to come a time when you own property that you're going to have to increase the rent. This is just to keep up with the costs of holding the property, and it's also to keep up with your strategy of paying down the mortgage as best and as quickly as you possibly can. Rent rises are just a natural part of owning property. So a lot of landlords are sort of hesitant to increase the rent on the property because they are worried about losing good tenants. And I kind of get it, but at the same time, the rent has to increase at some point. You can't keep the rent the same, otherwise you'll be holding the property forever and paying down the mortgage forever. So look after the tenants by all means, but at the same time, you're running a business in a way and you're in it to make money. So do the right thing by yourself, and after some time, you're gonna have to increase the rent. So tip number 10 for any first-time real estate investor, and this is, just because you invest doesn't mean you're gonna make money. There are so many things that can go wrong. You could buy in the wrong area, the wrong location. You could buy at the wrong time. The property doesn't increase in value. You can't get a tenant in the property and you're not earning any rental income. Something gets damaged and it's uninhabitable. Like, the list goes on. There are a ton of risks when you're talking about real estate investing. On the flip side, there are huge rewards, and this is why it's so appealing for a lot of people to buy into real estate. Those major rewards being obviously the property price increases, your equity increases, and so does your wealth. And then you can go and buy more properties, or you can live off the equity. The dream for a lot of property investors is having passive income and not having to go to work and living the life that they want to live and have the choices that they want. So understand the risks and work out, is that something that you're willing to accept and work through to get to these rewards? Because like I said, just because you buy property doesn't mean you're going to be rich, doesn't mean you're going to be wealthy. Understand that it is a very detailed and intricate investment class. You need to do as much research and due diligence as you can before buying these properties, and follow these tips to make sure that you don't get caught out. Because a lot of people unfortunately do. They buy the wrong properties from the wrong people at the wrong time, and it just doesn't work out well for them. So that is 10 first-time real estate investor tips that I have. And these are things that I've sort of learnt along the way buying properties for myself. Hopefully you got some value out of that. And if you did, I'd appreciate it if you could drop me one of these for the YouTube algorithm. It's the best thing you can do to help out the channel. And if you want to see more content just like this, consider subscribing. I release a video once a week on topics covering personal finance and investing. It comes out every Thursday, 7 p.m. And with that being said, thanks for watching. That's all we have time for. Until next week, I'll catch you soon.